Could Ole be going to Bayern Munich? Ten Hag makes a statement and calls out the referees for unfair treatment of Casemiro. Then a Euro to Manchester United, major boost for the 18-year-old centre-back. There's absolutely fantastic. What is the latest in regards to United and transfers? Reportedly, United getting ready to act in the transfer window. Dan Ashworth later says Newcastle announce he will leave. More news on Kobbie Mainoo for England. Will Calvin Phillips finally be dropped? Some interesting statistics, news and information that's come out as well. So let's get into all the latest Manchester United news, rounded up for you guys in less than 10 minutes today. So please hit the like button and of course subscribe down below if you're new. I want to start with getting into what Ten Hag has said on the referees in regards to Casemiro and why he took Casemiro off at half time. Ten Hag said, I already spoke with Casemiro, but it looks like even when he's not touching opponents, he's getting booked, and often on the first moment in the game as well. So I think it's crazy, he told reporters. He said today was similar. I think the first booking was unfair, and the second, the referee could have given him a yellow. He would give him a yellow. That's why we took him off. But it's difficult to play when you don't even touch the opponent and you get booked. And Ten Hag is absolutely spot on about this whole Casemiro stuff. Casemiro probably was going to get a second yellow card if he played the full 90 versus Luton, but it's the fact that he gets a yellow card when he doesn't touch an opponent, and he seems to get a yellow card for his first foul. The first yellow card he got versus Luton, I don't think was a yellow card. The second foul we made, I'd understand if the ref had given him a yellow then, but not for the first foul. And it's like the first foul Casemiro makes, he gets a yellow, whereas every other player is allowed to make a foul or two before they get a yellow. Casemiro doesn't even touch opponents, he gets a yellow. Casemiro makes a simple foul that's just a little foul, he gets a yellow. Ten Hag is right, I have to take Casemiro at half time, because any other player, maybe he can risk it. But with Casemiro, you know that he will get a yellow for not even touching the opponent. And Ten Hag didn't want to take that risk because he knows Casemiro won't even touch the opponent and they'll look for any excuse to book him. And I'm glad that Ten Hag has spoken out about this, because every time he makes a foul, he gets a yellow. It's like every time he makes a foul, sometimes he doesn't touch opponents. Sometimes they dive. And it's like he gets the softest cards ever. And I think it's the lack of consistency in the Premier League. Going into our next story, we're going to be covering all the latest on Dan Ashworth. It was said that Newcastle United can announce that Dan Ashworth has commenced the period of garden leave. Newcastle United have confirmed that Dan Ashworth is leaving the club. While Dan Ashworth to United isn't done yet, the fact that Newcastle are announcing he's leaving, he's going on gardening leave, is confirmation that Dan Ashworth wants to go to United. Dan Ashworth has a verbal agreement with United. Dan Ashworth has communicated to Newcastle he wants to leave and go to United, and that deal should be done pending, of course, compensation from Newcastle. Fabrizio Romano again confirmed everything's agreed between Manchester United and Dan Ashworth. The contract is ready. United and Newcastle must agree on the compensation, then Ashworth can begin work. It was then said by James Duck of the Telegraph that Man United have made a formal approach to Newcastle for Dan Ashworth, and that Dan Ashworth earns 1.5 million a year at Newcastle, which makes him the top earning sporting director. Newcastle want 20 million compensation. They don't want to obviously pay Dan Ashworth, £3 million while he's on gardening leave. I think ultimately Newcastle will probably lower that compensation fee, and a figure around 10 million will be agreed, because United don't have a lot of money to spend because we've got problems with FFP, but Newcastle also need money to help their problems with FFP, and Dan Ashworth has left the club, so Newcastle in a position where if they charge super high for Dan Ashworth, that could put off other execs from coming. United could just say, oh, we're going to wait. I think Newcastle know how much United need Dan Ashworth, and that's why they're pushing for 15, 20 million. It's a big loss, but I think ultimately something around 10 million will probably be agreed, and I think that deal should be done within the next week. It's just really on Newcastle and how difficult they want to make it. They'll say, oh, you tried to price up Lingard and this and that, and maybe they'll play hardball, but I think they're in a position where they're like, well, ultimately Dan Ashworth wants to go. We want the situation resolved. Let's just get on with it as well. In terms of Dan Ashworth, he's not the only change happening to United. I've always said this before. We spend loads of money on players before we sack another manager. The most important thing to happen at United is structural change. And James Ducker has done a report talking about a few structural changes that could be happening at United. He said Sir Dave Brailsford is set to officially begin his in-depth review of the club's sporting operations, which will give Ineos a clear view of how things are currently run. There are reports that they actually had communication with Ragnick, they've had communication with Sir Alex Ferguson, they've had communication with everyone around the club, and they're now doing an in-depth review of United sporting operations. Apparently Ineos was shocked when they came into United to find out that John Murtough and Richard Arnold don't really have a clear role that's communicated to them by the Glazers. John Murtough and Richard Arnold have their roles, but actually they don't know who does the final thing on transfers or who does what in a detail, and there's very little communication with the Glazers, because ultimately United's run shambolically. The thing I like about Ineos, Ratcliffe, Brailsford is they look to get stuck in and they look to want to establish a relationship with the staff. They have an idea, they have a vision, they have something they want to build, and they're going to communicate that with the staff at United, rather than Murta and Arnold, who aren't qualified to do the job, also getting no help from the Glazers, not really knowing what they're meant to be doing and having these roles, but don't really know who does what and what role. It was also said by James Ducker that Manchester United's structure has been criticised over the years, and rightly so, with some sources saying it's hampered the speed and quality of decision-making within the club, and Ratcliffe wants to make much clearer lines of communication and decision-making, and we're already seeing that in place. Man United went bish, bash, bosh, got Omar Barada done, no one expected it. The day the deal was ratified by the FA, the day the Manchester United takeover was approved by the FA and approved by the Premier League, what happens? We open talks with Newcastle. We get the Fabrizio Romano, David Ornstein bomb, but we open talks with Newcastle with Dan Ashworth. Omar Barada, bish bash bosh done. We couldn't do anything else until Ineos deal was sorted. Then we went in and got Dan Ashworth the day that the deal was officially approved. We're also trying to get Jason Wilcox. We're trying to do multiple things. And what I like about Ineos is they're moving quick. We've already got planning permission or town planning for this new Man United redevelopment at Old Trafford. We've already got movement on Old Trafford, movement on Ashworth, and Omar Barada is in within a month. I like the Ineos are like, we're going to get things done. We're going to get things done quick. We're not going to be the United that faffs about for ages. And that's so important, because look at Frankie de Jong. Look at how many transfer sagas we've had. Stop faffing about unless it's for the right reason, because we know we'll save money and get this player for cheaper and it's a negotiation tactic. But when United faff about on transfers, the transfer normally ends up being more expensive, like Hoyland. In terms of transfer news, it was said that Real Madrid have reportedly ruled out the possibility of signing highly rated defender Lenny Euro, and Euro is understood to be on the name of United's transfer targets. I'm sure United are interested in Lenny Euro, 18 years of age, looks like a monster centre-back for Lille. Obviously, Nice being in the French league as well, I'm sure that Jim Ratcliffe and those who Brailsford will have a good eye about French talents coming through as well. I think Lenny Euro is a baller. I would love him at Manchester United. I think he's a great player. I know he's so young, but I think he's going to be an absolute world beater. I really, really do. I think Real Madrid are all focused on Mbappe and everything going on there, that I think potentially another striker as well. Apparently they're looking at Hoyland Madrid, that potentially there's an opportunity for Lenny Euro. I think Lenny Euro, Todibo, United definitely like. Antonio Silva, United definitely like. Inacio and Branthwaite for the left-hand side, we definitely like. I think United will make a move for a centre-back. I can't tell you who it is, but I think they'll make a move for a centre-back or two. And I think Lenny Euro is on their list. Talking of moves, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to Bayern Munich. What is the latest on this? So it was said that new Solskjaer to Bayern Munich are now monitoring Solskjaer as an interim solution, but the original plan remains. FC Bayern would like to continue with Tuchel to the end of the season, but they could be looking at an interim. Obviously, nothing's concrete with Solskjaer at the stage, but he is someone they're looking at because he's a free agent. And Freund, who's obviously been following Solskjaer for years. Believe it or not, I think Ole would be a really good interim manager for Bayern Munich. Ole was great as interim manager of United. It all went wrong when he got the job. He's very good at sort of instilling a sort of feel-good attitude, doing that great manager bounce. But I actually think with the players that Bayern Munich have, Bayern Munich are in a dead league, but they have so much individual quality that Ole's setting up in a 4-2-3-1, which relies on individual brilliance, like he did at United, will just shine at Bayern because they have so much individual brilliance. They have Kane, they have Kim and Jae, they've got pacey direct wingers, they've got so many class players that to an extent I actually think Ole's 4-2-3-1 at Bayern Munich, Ole coming in, interim manager to give them all a boost. I think Ole could work really well at Bayern Munich as an interim. I don't know if he'd work in the long term because tactically he had a lot of flaws. But with a good squad, Ole wasn't a bad manager. He got second with United. You can't be a bad manager and get second with Manchester United. I feel like Ole had to go, and rightly so, and the football we're playing wasn't the best. And he didn't maybe have the tactical ability to adapt. But there was no way Ole was a bad manager. There was no way Ole was a bad manager. You don't get second with United if you're a bad manager. You look at some of the players he had to work with. And I generally think I'd love to see Ole at Bayern Munich as an interim manager, even if it's interim, because I think he would personally be good for them. Now, talking of good, talking of special, Rasmus Højlund. Don't know if you can see this here, but this was on Match of the Day. Since Christmas, no player has a higher conversion rate than Højlund. He's had 11 shots and scored 7 goals with a conversion rate of 64%. To put that in perspective, the second highest conversion rate is at 36%, and that is Diogo Jota. And then they've got Palmer and Salah behind. Højlund has a conversion rate of 64%, 11 shots, 7 goals in his last 6 games. He's becoming Mr. Clinical. Right now, he's the best striker in the league since Christmas. Obviously, he's not the best striker in the league. Haaland is better, but since Christmas, he's played 6 games. He's got 7 goals. He's got 2 assists. He's created most of those goals for him. His link-up play is good. His general play is good. His hold-up play is good. Hoyland's proven is a beast, and another player that's a beast is Kobbie Mainoo. Oh my days. Calvin Phillips has been awful and atrocious for West Ham. Calvin Phillips has barely cracked football in 2 years. If Calvin Phillips gets picked ahead of Kobbie Mainoo for the Euros, Southgate is on a mad one. What a game he had. Kobbie Mainoo, the way the ball stuck to his feet like glue, he made all those dribbles, all those passes, absolutely phenomenal. Listen, people, that is all the latest in regards to Manchester United and the news. I will be back tomorrow, so please do subscribe if you're new and want to stay up to date with all things United. Smash a like. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.